All right. We are here in,
Debrecen,
and what country is that in?
Hungary.
And we are going to do a very controversial claim. Can you read the claim over there? Is your eyesight good?
Yeah, if your country went to war against China for the Taiwanese invasion, would you fight with them?
Correct. If your country went to war against China for the Taiwanese invasion, would you fight for them? In other words, if China invaded Taiwan, would you, and your country supported Taiwan, would you fight with your country? So in order to understand this question, we're going to say where we're from. Cool. Because if you don't want to say where you're from, you don't have to. Where are you from?
India.
Thailand.
Vietnam.
Hungary.
Okay. If your country went to war against China for the Taiwanese invasion, in other words, if China invaded Taiwan and your country backed the Taiwanese, would you fight for them? Strongly agree. Strongly disagree. Everybody knows the rules. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay. Strongly disagree. Tell us why you strongly disagree.
First of all, I don't think Vietnam would join a war.
Nice and loud so that he can hear, because he has to respond to this.
First of all, I don't think my country, Vietnam, would join a war for another country. Second, I am not a soldier, so probably I would not be deployed to fight on another land for another country, because obviously we would need reserve men and shoulder for our own security. If and in case my country has to fight against the invasion of another country, then I would fight for my country. I would fight for my country, for my homeland, but I would not fight for another country.
Okay.
First of all, I wouldn't want to get my country against China, because it's a fast-growing country, and whatever the case with the Taiwanese invasion may be, afterwards, it's not that I'm afraid of China, it's political thinking that I wouldn't want to go against them. Secondly, I'm not a soldier either, so I wouldn't want to fight for someone else's country. If it were mine, then it's a different case, but it's for someone else, and maybe I get my country in a much worse position than it was when it started. So,
Okay. All right. So we're going to have to pretend that the neutral line is here. We're having some tape issues. What would you fight?
I think I'd want to fight, obviously, because China, this doesn't start or end with Taiwan. China has annexed so many territories over the years, including parts of India. They took over Tibet. They want to take Bhutan. Honestly, there's no stopping them. So I feel like I'd really want to help out in this. I also have a lot of Taiwanese friends. I have friends who went to the protests in Hong Kong. It's bad. It's really bad. China is not going to stop unless, other nations get involved. And I think I really would have, at least the emotional motivation to go help. I'm not sure in what capacity I'd be able to be helpful in a war, maybe with translations or something, but I would want to support the movement as much as I could.
So what do you have to say to these guys who I've given up on the tape? What do you have to say to these guys who are not soldiers?
I mean, in a war, it's not just about, being a soldier. There's other roles to be done as well. But I understand where you guys are coming from as well. Obviously, going up against China is a huge thing. You're Asian, so you know exactly how terrifying it is, honestly, because they get away with so much in their own country. But I also think that eventually you have to decide if this is the kind of world you want to live in, or you want to try and change something about it. Doesn't matter if you don't change anything about it, but maybe just trying is the important thing.
Even if that means your life.
I mean, better to die for something you believe in than to live a life where you're just, empty and shallow, I suppose.
All right. So why are you on the agree?
See, he's. I will just ask him the same thing
Nice and loud.
because he said Vietnam is not in a good shape to fight. That's why you say it's already we had in India they already went a war with China, and that time we are also not in the shape to fight against it. We just had a kind of agreement with China, like here are the things that are going to go soon, like a smoothie way. It's fine. We'll have an economic agreement. The moment the ambassador he went back to China, they started the war. So it's not about the it's like how you are. It's about the fight and the war. It means you show your opinion. It's not like you are just going to fight with them. At least show your inner self, how you feel about the issue. If you feel like there is a war going now, you already know all the about the things, like it's already literally it's like a an elephant versus a cat. Right now it's happening as a war, but still you support a cat. In the terms I'm saying, in the terms of size, I'm saying about the war now is going on. So it's not about the size, or else it's not about the thing. It's about the spirit of the people. If you want to support a person, you can do it. It's like that, and you can go to war. It's not like that you can't. You can go there, just give some people food, just take some bandages.
Yeah, they don't have to carry guns. They can carry, I don't know, bandages or something.
Do how much ever possible. It's like it's not mandatory. It's like that, but
Did anything they say convince you?
No.
Let me ask you a question. If are you concerned at all that if China takes Taiwan, that some other country is next and Vietnam is somewhere on that list?
Obviously, I do pay attention to the movement of the politics and the army force of the world and everything. But a country decide to invade another country or whatever it has to do with it, it has a lot of too much depth and knowledge of the people living inside that country to think that it is reasonable or not. And I am not living inside those countries. I don't know exactly what's going on, so my opinion is so invalid. What I can see is only from the internet, whatever I can find about it, and then I have my personal opinion about it. Okay, I can say it is humanitarian, it is a war crime or whatever, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much anything. And to decide my life, to put my life on the line to fight for another country is just so not realistic at all. No.
So a couple questions. How many there are 10 million people here in Hungary approximately. How many people live in Vietnam?
About in Vietnam there's about 100 million.
It's 100. So it's about roughly 10 times the size of Hungary.
Yes.
If there were a draft, in other words, if you were conscripted, if your government told you that the Chinese are trying to take over Taiwan, and for whatever reason, I don't know, we think we're next, or we have to stop the injustice, or the United States wants to, whatever reason, and you got a letter in the mail saying that you needed to go to some camp for 2 weeks, and then they're shipping you to the front line. Would you go, or what would you do?
The moment that I decide to go to the military, then obviously I will follow the order. If it's come from my country, then I will follow the order.
So if you got a letter conscription saying 2 weeks and then you're on the front line, you would go?
Yes, but yes, I would go if my country wants me to do.
All right. 10 million people here in Hungary.
Yeah.
You get a letter in the mail that says China's invading Taiwan. We're calling you up for military service. As unlikely as that sounds, would you go?
Well, if it was mandatory, then I would have to. So yeah, but I would have a question for them if that's okay.
Please.
Well, if you go to the lines, even if you don't fight, in worst case scenario, you can die. War crimes happen, war accidents happen, so you can certainly die. Would you go there if you had a family, a wife or a husband and children? Would you go to war then?
I'm so glad you asked this question. You know, so when I was 17, I wrote an article about Chinese communism and how it's comparable to Germany in World War II. And then I got a phone call saying that if I published that, nobody could guarantee the safety of my mother. I lived in Thailand at the time. I tend to work in a field where saying the right thing or saying your opinion is really polarized or damaging. I think people who love me and are close to me know this about me. That I would rather fight for what I believe in than sit at home and wish I would have done something. So I think the people who love me would understand this very deeply about me, that I would really want to go and do something as opposed to just sit at home. Or maybe even if I didn't go to the front lines, trying to bring awareness of it on an international level, I think would be something where I'd be useful in. But I think people who are close to me know this about me. Would it hurt? Yes, absolutely. But I think it's just who I am, maybe.
Well, okay, everyone's a different person, so she can have her opinions, but it didn't change mine.
So you said like you whether you won't be having a family and why you're going there. The country also have their own family. The soldiers have their family. If you're caring about your own family, I feel like that is so selfish on you. Like you have like thinking about your own family and you are just thinking, okay, I have my family, I have to protect, so I won't go there. That's what you are trying to say. But the country which is like a Taiwan, it is very small in size, and China, it's huge, and they started building some military islands, man-made military islands. They just started making now, and they want to take a territorial control over the South China Sea, and they just started building everything. So it's not about families and the things. When it comes there, you have to do it. Okay, then I can say like in Indians, like when we are under the British, when the World War First was happened, there was a huge number of shipment happened. Then the people from India, they went for the war, and Second World War also we went. We were under colonialism. Then we don't have any other option. We have to go, and we had famine. We have struggled everything, fighting for the cause. It's like if you would have said like no, Indians, they why they have to fight, they are not belonging to the world war, and we are not literally in the Europe, we are from Asia, and we just came to the fight in the world war. If they not done it right now, we would have under the dictatorship. It's like if the people have thought like I don't want to go for the fight, I won't go for the things. It's about doing the right thing, it's not about doing that.
Do you think that the way someone answers this question depends on the country that they're from?
Maybe that's what, because it's common in Asian field, because it's like
Tell them.
it's I feel like you can say like it's literally you fighting with just Mike Tyson. That's kind of, you don't know any experience in fighting, and just you go into the ring with Mike Tyson. Within two blows you will be knocked out.
It'd be a bloodbath.
Within two butts you like that you would have been, but we did like that.
Yeah.
In 1962 we went like that with China.
And you did it because you believed it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, there is no thing. Okay, or else you have to answer me that then if people they not started fighting against Germany in the World War II, what you think the end? They think like we will save ourselves and our families and our country. We don't want to involve in anything. We will be a neutral position. You tell me how the scenario went back, like how it wouldn't have moved forward. How you see in that case?
Is there anything that is, so this is a general question. Is there anything that you could hear that would move you one way or the other? Anything you could hear that would move you one way or the other? Like any argument or piece of data or reason that you could hear that would cause you to move?
So I think it's not that, because I didn't move to strongly agree, because I still believe war is not a solution. I believe violence is not kind of end, and or else it's a final weapon. You have to use it. I feel like you have to speak, and you can make some kind of agreements or kind of things for you to make the calm, because going against each other in a fight, I feel that is not the solution. So that's why I didn't went there. So I'm not going to change my opinion. I will be here.
I think there's one really crucial factor in this is whether either NATO or the US would get involved in this, because if they did, then I think I'd probably move even more towards agreeing. If they didn't, I think I'd probably still stay here, but I think that would be a huge variable in determining whether a country would want to go and support Taiwan or not.
Anything that would cause you to move?
Not really, but I have a cross question. Would you also fight if it was necessary, mandatory, for a cause you don't believe in?
No, I would have not done that.
If it was mandatory, then yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So far, I don't feel I am influenced by their reason, so I don't change my opinion.
Okay.
But I have one statement that I want to make is
Please.
people should not take their life for granted.
All right, last question. Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
It's like it is pretty covered, I guess. Still, that I'm not convinced with the answers, like because is like the way that it didn't.
Oh, I think maybe there's one question that you could have asked, and it's kind of directed towards you guys, if that's okay. Do you guys really think what happens in another country or what happens in another intergovernmental conflict doesn't affect you personally? So my question is, in this age, we're already seeing a lot of what one of my professors calls atomic individualism. It's a sort of detachment from society and values. Do you really think what happens in your neighboring countries or even anywhere in the world doesn't ripple and eventually affect you? That's my question. Just another thing. World War I didn't start because of Germany. It started because of one assassination that then, had a butterfly effect and went on to go all across Europe. And we're still seeing the effects of that today. And even World War II. So my question is, do you really think you're that special or that individual that you can go on and have a happy life and live as a moral, decent human being, knowing that so many people that could have been you and your family are going through extreme injustice? That's my question.
Well, I don't necessarily think that, but right now it's happening with Ukraine, and no one is going to war with Russia because of it. So that really makes my point that even if there is a ripple, you still need to be considerate and careful if you poke your head into a war or not. So it's that.
Of course.
All right. So you mentioned the Russo-Ukrainian conflict and why other countries have not tried to help. So there's two variables.
Fight with them.
So there's a couple of variables to this. I'll stick to two. Number one, it's the providence of nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons have changed the way that we look at physical wars because the effects of them are incredibly bad. As you know, it doesn't just stick in one generation. It stays for a really long time. And Russia is on one side of this and America's on the other. They both have pretty much the same amount of weapons. Russia has a bit more. So the reason why NATO is not interfering right now is because of nukes. Second of all, Ukraine is not in the NATO, so no NATO country is legally bound to go. Have they been providing humanitarian aid and trying to help them as much as they can, including providing them arms, without trying to cause further conflict? Yes. So your argument that they're not helping or not providing or not going to the front is kind of nullified because they're trying to maintain as much peace as possible while still supporting the Ukrainian cause.
As far as I know, China also has nuclear power.
I believe it does.
It does. So does the U.S. And actually, India has also said that it will interfere if China gets to invade Taiwan. And as you know, they're both nuclear weapon states. Obviously, an invasion would be terrible, but I'm talking about a physical invasion, not a nuclear war. The Russo-Ukrainian conflict cannot be compared to the Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
Because why?
First of all, they're extremely like close together. Like it's sort of the same thing with Russia, where if they bomb Ukraine, they're gonna get affected by it too, without a skin of a doubt. So whether or not they're gonna use a bomb is really different in the Russian-Ukrainian war versus China and Taiwan, because China wants to take Taiwan as a part of it, as opposed to sort of destroying the country, which is I feel like what's going on with Ukraine. You know, they're trying to dismantle the government and everything in Ukraine. But with Taiwan, China's agreements with Taiwan for their invasion is that Taiwan will be allowed to have some degree of sovereignty, but it'll be under the PRC. So I feel like they're really different conflicts, and the nuances of them are really important to understand why China is really unlikely to use a nuke in this case.
Did you want to add? You don't have to add if you want.
Well, I'd say the nuances are different, but the only thing you pointed out that Russia doesn't want that China wants to take in Taiwan back as China, but Russia wants the same thing with Ukraine. So the only thing you pointed out, even though they are bombing it, they still want to take a piece of Ukraine. So the single thing you pointed out, I think, is irrelevant. There are different nuances.
Sorry, this is going to go on for a bit, isn't it? Okay, so I feel like with the Ukrainian conflict, it's really complex because with Russia and the Ukraine, obviously, you also had the Soviet Union, which is a collection of different states that disbanded. Also, at some point, Ukraine did have nuclear weapons, but it was given off to Russia during the fall of the Soviet Union. So that's, I feel like, also a really important point to mention.
They, if I may, they actually signed the Budapest Accords. Yeah.
That was here. I think when you look at other countries or other regions that China has annexed, it has done so, I want to say, more skillfully. They're a lot more deceitful with what they do as opposed to making a grand show out of it.
Like the One Belt, One Road policy.
Exactly. Or even like, if you look at China trying to buy Sri Lanka out of its foreign debt right now, that's just really smart economical colonization. Or them buying up a lot of property in Nigeria and Kenya. I mean, I don't know. I feel like China's way worse than Russia in the fact that they're so subtle. Most of the world doesn't really see what they're doing.
Yeah, I believe so. I agree with the last part.
Do you want that last word and all that?
No.
Do you want a last word? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Very thoughtful responses. Thank you.